game against Kizeretsky. And this time hello champions and future champions, hello ChessMood family. Today I will show you classical endgame played by Adolf Anderssen. Yeah, the same Anderssen which played the immortal game against Kizeretsky. And this time he's playing an endgame. His opponent is Minckwitz. Yeah, Anderssen plays with white, and before we go ahead, let's evaluate the position. Well, we have an endgame with opposite color bishops. The material is equal, pawns are equal, everything is equal. But there is one big difference in pawn structure. White here has a pawn on a5. White's problem is that it's going to be very tough for him to push a6, a7 and a8 because the bishop on c6 is gonna control. Also, black here has two rooks, and if you try to push a6, a7, black easily at some point can play rook a7, rook a8, and our a5 pawn will be a victim. Now, what plan to choose for white? Now this is a very instructive moment, and this concept you can use a lot in your games. But before we go ahead and I show you that, I offer you to pause the video and think yourself what plan to choose for white. Okay, often when on one side of the board we'll have advantage, like here we have a5 pawn, but we cannot push there and win. Very often we will start the fight on the another side of the board. So let's see what is doing Anderssen. He played knight e2. What is he planning? First of all, he is planning to bring the bishop on c3. After knight e2, he plans to play bishop d2, bishop c3. Bishop c3 will defend the a5 pawn, and also he is going to put pressure on the king side. In future, Anderssen is going to play knight g3, knight h5, g4, h4, g5, so he will start activity in the king side. And black will have problem to fight in the king side or to stop this pass pawn. Let's see what happened in the game. Rook hb8 was played. Logical move, rook is coming to the open line, and also black wants to play rook b2, enter to opponent camp and attack the c2 pawn. Knight f4, check, king f7, bishop d2. Bishop c3 is coming, after which the bishop c3 will defend the a5 pawn and also the b2 square. Rook b2 was played, attacking the c2 pawn, simply rook dc1, defending the c2 pawn, and anyway after bishop c3 the rook should go back. Black played rook a7, bishop c3, rook b8, king f2. White is preparing to play g4, h4, rook g1, knight h5, g5, and after that black is going to have problems in the king side. King f2, knight g6 was played in the game. Black is trying to exchange the pieces, with this reducing white's activity, upcoming activity actually, on the king side. But of course white is keeping the knight h5. The knight is putting very annoying pressure on this f6 and g7 pawns, while because there is never will be possible to play knight e7 f5, g7 pawn will hang, and also black cannot play g6 because the f6 pawn will hang. After knight h5 move, black played knight e5, g4, white is continuing their plan, g4, h4, g5, starting here, attacking the f6 and g7 pawn, and black played knight c4. Black wants to play rook a8, and with those, with three pieces, you are going to attack the a5 pawn. Here I offer you to pause the video and think how to continue. Okay, obviously white can play rook a2, rook a8, rook a1 and passively defend the a5 pawn. But now when the two rooks are here, it's gonna be tough without rooks to gain activity with just the bishop, knight and with this pawn. Another option a white has after knight c4 move is to play rook g1 and to go g5, kind of going all in. Now, if black plays rook be8, g5, knight a5, looks like black is okay. After gf6 they can play g6, attacking the h5 knight, and after knight f4, knight c4. So black again the a5 pass pawn, which we have. Now we have another pass pawn on f6. However, now next move is coming knight e5, closing the bishop on c3, and after that f6 pawn gonna hang. However, after g5, Knight a5, white has a very strong move, knight g7, sacrificing the piece and crushing black's position of the king side. King g7, gf6, check. Now of course king h8 move is impossible, because after f7 it's gonna be a checkmate. Black can play whether king f8. This is better than king f7, because king f7, rook g7 will come with the tempo. And king h6. If king h6, king is getting checkmate on the h line. Bishop d2 check, king h5, rook g5 check, king h4, rook a g1 check. Now rook g4 check is coming, bishop d7 is only move, and after bishop e1, black king cannot survive against these two pieces, bishop and also these pawns. King is going to get checkmate. Next move, white king is going somewhere, giving a discover check, for example king e3, and after king h3, rook h5, checkmate. After gf6, if black goes king f8, then rook g7. With idea next to play rook a g1, and then two rooks, bishop, pawn, it's gonna checkmate the king. Black's best try is to play bishop e8, with idea after rook a g1 to play bishop g6, defending the h7 pawn and also closing the connection between these two rooks. But now the h2 pawn is coming for help, h4. h4, h5 is coming. Black's best tries to play here c6, opening the rook and trying to exchange them, but h5. If rook g7, then fg7 is coming with a check, and after bishop h5 is coming rook g8, check. King f7, rook 1, g7, check, king g6, and rook a8. White is winning material because black cannot take rook a8 back. Rook e7 is gonna be a checkmate. And after knight g7, king g7, gf6, if black played king f7, of course it's even worse, because rook g7 would be even with a check. No, king e6, rook e7, checkmate. So after g4, knight c4, Anderssen, calculating all this, played rook g1. Now he's planning to play g5, sacrifice the a5 pawn, and start attack on black's king on f7. Black played here h6, not allowing g5, but h4 anyway is coming. h4, g5. Now black realized that after g5 the attack gonna be very strong, and they didn't play rook a8, but played rook h8, kind of stopping the g5 move, because if you go here g5, after hg5 the h5 knight hangs. But after rook h8, Anderssen prepares it. He plays rook g2. Very useful move, at some point rook can join the attack. Rook a8, knight f4 back. Now already black should think about g5 upcoming move. Rook a g8 was played, trying to defend the g7 and f6, and here actually g5 was possible, but Anderssen decided to play a6. With this, after he plays a6, a7, black rooks will not know what to do, to defend the king or to defend against a8. And with this plan a6, a7, actually white is distracting black pieces from defense of the king side. Black played knight e5, a7. Knight d7 was played, rook a g1, bishop a8, and finally g5. Black's position is going to collapse on the king side. hg5, hg5, bishop c6 was played. If fg5, then rook g5. Now three pieces are attacking the g7 pawn. The only way is rook h7, but then, for example, rook f5 check, king e7, and king e3. Black's position is very bad. They should keep pieces to defend the a7 pawn, they should keep pieces to defend the g7 pawn, but they have also another problem, the c7 pawn. At some point bishop a5 is coming, rook g6, rook e6 is coming, black has problems. After hg5, black played bishop c6, gf6. Now if gf6, then knight g6 move, attacking the h8 rook, and the rook was also the defender of g8 rook. And after rook h7 it's possible now, knight e5, discover check, and next move to take the g8 rook. After gf6, knight f6 was played, and now another strong move. I for you to pause the video and think. Okay, e5 was played. White is going to open the bishop and at the same time attack the c7 pawn. But black's even main problem is that after the e5 is not just bishop e5, but they have knight g6, attacking the h8 rook and also the e5 pawn. And this is not just a pawn. After taking e5 with the check, the c6 bishop going to hang. After knight f6, e5, knight d5 was played, trying to exchange the knights and at the same time attacking the c3 bishop. Now e6 check. Black's g7 pawn is going to be lost. King e8 was played, knight d5, bishop d5 and bishop g7 with tempo on the rook. Rook h7 was played, bishop f6. If black takes rook g2, then is coming rook g8 with a checkmate and bishop doesn't know what to do to defend the a8 square or to take e6 defending g8. That's why here white is winning. After bishop f6, black played rook f8 keeping the rooks, but rook g8. Anderssen is combining two ideas, checkmating the king and also at some point playing a8. Now white has unstoppable threats as they are threatening e7 move, they are threatening even rook b1 move, leaving the rook on g8 undefended because they doesn't care bishop f6 and pawn on e6 together with rook b8, they are just checkmating. After rook g8, white's last move, black played here rook h2, check, king e3, rook c2, and now all the moves are winning. White simply played e7 and black resigns, they cannot defend the rook, and if rook g8 is coming whether rook g8 or a8 queen, distracting the bishop, and then rook g8 check and then e8 queen, winning the game. Everything went very smoothly, right? But without this plan it would not. Look at this beautiful plan, knight e2, bishop goes to c3, defending the a5 pawn, defending the b2 square from rook b8, rook b2, and then white is preparing g4, h4, g5. So the main concept was to combine the advantage of the postpawn of the queen side with putting activity in the king side, and then black pieces didn't know what to do to defend against the postpawn or defend their king side. Well, black should not lose the game so easily. Mainly they failed the plan with playing knight g6, knight e5, knight c4, rook a7, rook a8, trying to win the a5 pawn because they were late. Most probably here the better move for black would be to play g5 themselves. g5 and then knight g6, knight e5, knight would be here in the center, very good square for him, no f4 because then e4 pawn would hang, and maybe black would play h5, g4, trying to activate their bishop c6 and knight e5 together to put on these two pawns pressure e4 and f3. And another mistake in the game was here after knight h5 when black played knight e5, knight c4, rook a8 trying to win it, but they were late against g4, g5. It was already essential to play knight e7, g4 and play d5. Open the position with idea after e5, knight d5, attack the bishop, and after bishop d2 to play rook b2, trying to get some counter play. Still, after knight f4 here, white would exchange the knights, and white has here postpawn, black has double pawns, and white still has advantage, but it would not be lost. In the game, the move which was played after knight h5, knight e5, g4, knight c4, after rook g1, when black realized they cannot win the pawn because g5 is coming very dangerous, and they played h6, h4, rook h8, going to passive defense. This position was already very bad. Rook g2, rook g1, knight f4, g5, and black had problems with defending the king side and also against the a5 pawn. So remember this tip. When you have advantage in one side of the board, often you will need to start initiative in the other side of the board. Jemavadik was with you. See you during the next games.